Breaking news tonight on the Solyndra scandal. Hi, everybody. I'm David Asman. Thanks for joining us. There are more coming up. Well, the amazing success of Steve Jobs and Apple is the type of success story that could only happen in America. But could it happen in today's America with layers upon layers of regulation? We are joined by Toby Smith and Tom Belesis, guys who know a lot about startups. What do you think, Tom? Could it happen today?
Absolutely. I mean, to talk about Steve Jobs in general, I mean, he's a once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon. I mean, you can compare him to some of the great industrialists in the history books like Edison and Ford, you know, and to go past that, it's the story about America. America's always going to be the best place for innovation and entrepreneurship. Unfortunately, we have an administration now that's been dampening the American psyche. So, you know, like I've been telling you, Dave, you know, once this administration is voted out, you're going to have so much pent-up demand from the entrepreneur side that comes into the marketplace that any forecast from any economist are going to look so low ridiculous when that happens. So I do believe the best days are ahead for entrepreneurs in America.
And Toby, Tom and I have talked about this before. That's why we're both bullish after this energy is released. We do see the pent-up energy just waiting for a moment to break out.
Well, yeah, let's say, by the way, I think he was more like Michelangelo. I mean, I think that was the thing about Steve Jobs, that he could take the aesthetic as well as the mechanical.
But hold on a second, because that's a good point. Let me just focus on that for a second, because a lot of people say he was more of an artist in sales, but he was one hell of a salesman. And that's what Walt Mossberg focused on today in his piece in the Wall Street Journal, the fact that for you know, everybody's talking about his artistic quality, but he was a great salesman as well.
He was, and it almost sort of goes hand in hand, because he believed so much, and he was so detailed in everything that went through that process that when it actually came out, he was genuinely excited about it. He's even excited about Apple TV, as we're showing there, which was a stink bomb, but they finally went and fixed.
But there's so many barriers to selling things now because of the regulations that we have. Wouldn't that make it at least more difficult for him to start up today?
I don't know, David. Here's what I do know. We used to get 400,000 to 500,000 H-1B immigrants in the United States, high-end, highly professional, highly technical. And after 9/11, we ended that. We were down to 60,000. I would say that the biggest regulation I'm afraid of or whether we need to change, is get back to the 400,000 to 500,000 highly talented people we educate here in the United States that leave, et cetera, because 40% of new startups in the last 10 years, 40%, have been from people who were naturalized citizens.
The immigrants I mean, look, I married an immigrant. I love immigrants, but were immigrants responsible for Apple?
Well, not for Apple, but your question was, is there going to be another Apple? And another Apple's going to be from
let me just ask you about profit, because we have a president now who is essentially saying that profit is a dirty word. The other day he was saying that basically about Bank of America. That does make it more difficult to make a profit when you have the president saying it's not a good thing.
You know, how can you go out there and push for people to hire more people to increase productivity and bash companies to make profits? I mean, this is what America's all about. That's the story. I mean, his determination for the American dream is what got him to start Apple Computers, and we have to encourage more people like that to do things like that, because
on the reverse of that, doesn't it discourage people from doing that?
You know, it does, but they should look past that, because, you know what, the greater times are ahead. So, you know, I would think, yes, it will discourage people, but, you know what, eventually this administration is going to be out, and it should be very encouraging.
But Toby, I don't suppose you have a last word on this, do you?
Well, David, just remember, we've talked about this as well. Entrepreneurs could care less about the tax rate. Entrepreneurs care about their dream and their vision. And so whether the marginal rate was 35 or 34, first off, you're losing money when you start a company for the first couple of years. So I just don't agree. Entrepreneurs can't be stopped.
But did you see what happened once the Reagan tax cuts kicked in 1983? We had an explosion of new companies.
Well, yeah, we did, absolutely. But we also had the world's highest interest rates, the world's highest inflation rate, and as those came down.
I say 1983.
We did. We had the highest interest rates, highest inflation.
Yeah, but it wasn't until the tax rates kicked in 83. We brought the inflation down before that.
Look, there's no question. We went from 70% down to 30%, and that freed up capital.
Okay.
Our war is on
capital.
capital.
Would say thank you. All right, gentlemen, we got to leave it at that. Tom Belesis, Toby Smith, thank you very much. And we still have much more straight ahead.